Hi, Frida Darcy and one Patricia O'Connor here, and today it is 65, sunny, beautiful out, quite warm feeling. The kids are playing out by the pool. Last time I looked, there was some mallard ducks hanging out at one end of the pool, and there was some kids playing at the other end of the pool. And I think sounds like everybody's having a pretty good time. All of our trees are budding out. As promised, I went and cleaned up the base of my my dawn redwood, and I'm going to come in close and you can start to see that's the first bottom limb, buds coming out there. Then we go up here to the second limb and we can see numerous buds coming out there. Then we go up to the top, the buds are coming out underneath that blob of cut paste. And then on the trunk there's a couple of small buds. I don't want to move in too close, yours truly will probably knock them off or something, but we move right on up to the top. There's buds there, there's buds. So yeah, dawn redwood, buds all over. I'll be glad to see some green on this tree. I'll be glad to see it leafing out. It is long overdue. I haven't seen anything nice and foliage-like on this tree since August of last year. But while we're looking at stuff, let's look at how everything, you see that little toothpick sticking out there? The rollover is encompassing it, as the rollover has also encompassed this first branch and kind of blown past these two, and that rollover just goes right on up. This is a limb I cut back. You see how thick that was? It came out about this far and had a leader on it, a second leader that was about as big as that, right? So that was like a cathedral style second leader that was going to add balance to where all this stuff was gone. But last year I was looking at it and going, do we really need that? Why don't we try to let the tree come back, wrap around and come back out and give us, why don't we just try to make a tree out of that right there and get some balance on this side with all this stuff wrapping around the way it is. And that seemed like a pretty okay idea to me. We will be missing a branch on this side for a while, but that can be it, and we'll have a little space. Maybe the next thing that comes out right around here will be this side's branch. And one of these two guys will then have to go, because we'll have that windmill thing happening there. But I want to keep the action going. I don't want to cut that back anymore right now, or cut either one of these until I see some growth coming out of here. But that's what I want to see sprout out. That'll be my branch there. And then I don't know, at that point I'll make a decision as to which two of those guys are next. But yeah, so when this thing buds out, anything it wants to do, we're just totally okay with. This is like after the cat's been gone for 3 weeks, you don't really care that it was totally misbehaving and been a complete a-hole. You're just glad to see the cat back. That's kind of the way I feel about anything that comes out on this year. Make all the foliage you need to. You've been out for a while catting around or whatever's been going on underneath that bark, and just make all the energy you possibly can, and we are going to do everything we can do to encourage that. Pretty much watered the cypress trees twice. It's close, very, very close cousin to the dawn redwood. The dawn redwood, when I first got this tree, I was like, why? I didn't expect it to be in a blue glazed pot, and that's because it loses its foliage in the winter. And when they lose their foliage in the winter, the offset is you get a pot with some color to it. Otherwise, when they're evergreens, you go with the brown unglaze stuff. Anyway, with that in mind, this could have had a color. Ultimately, I do see it that way too. Whenever a few years from now, when those leaders turn into ramification on these tree bases here, I will put this in a rectangle. I already have it pictured in my mind's eye. That will become a rectangle, white or creamy white pot, aged as I can get it in appearance, and it'll be shallow. It'll be a pot, but it'll be a shallow pot. Say maybe this, right? So pull out that slab of root ball, which would be shaped like an inverse of this pot here, and then just basically shave it off that big, tease the bottom of it, put down a fresh layer of akadama in the bottom of that, wire the whole thing down to some beautiful, I think white would be a good color. I also think green would be a really good color, because yeah, we do lose all of our leaves in the winter, so it would be nice to have that against the color. And I think with the foliage coming out, doing something kind of green like that might be cool. But also I think when it comes to the shape that I have in mind for these, white would be kind of elegant for that, because I'm going to do a formal upright. So that's kind of why I can kind of see that being kind of cool. It'll probably come down to what I find that's it'll be going to be kind of tricky to find a rectangle, and I would like to find a rectangle that is roughly that length and roughly that width, and then is going to be about 2.5, I guess 3 inches, maximum 4 inches deep. Yeah, basically half the depth that one is, minus the feet, because everything you see, 1 inch of that is a ledge that's underneath, or a lip underneath the pot that acts its feet. So yeah, about half of that. Anyway, that's my idea for what would, when I have those 3 trees, with the center one being a twin trunk, and they're all looking really streamlined and formally upright and all beautiful and stuff. That's kind of how I see that as a finished guy. We're probably, quite a few years away from that. But like I've said a lot of times, these cypress trees are already beautiful in their own right. I don't mind the time that it's going to take these to make the thing I want to make. I'm getting 100% bonsai joy out of those guys right now. Now that I feel like I know better what I'm doing with my ponderosa pine, I feel like my enjoyment level has gone up considerably. In other words, I don't feel like it's guesswork as to whether or not I get to keep it. I've learned a few things about their upkeep and about what is expected of me maintenance-wise. And you don't dread doing stuff when you know what you're doing. And you obviously also don't dread doing stuff when you find out there's not that much for you to do. But then you don't spend your time or waste time or cost yourself time doing any of the wrong things for or feeling like you need to be doing something when you shouldn't. That happens. People do stuff to their trees at the wrong time of year, or the wrong stage of that tree's development all the time, me included. So learning a little bit, taking a few, watching a few lessons on ponderosa pine development has certainly been a big help. And yeah, that's something that, you know, you do get back for the effort that you put into it too. It's really nice to see. So over this past year, I thought at some point I might do a question and answer segment. So when people would ask me a question, I would usually answer their question directly, even if sometimes that answer seemingly led to more questions. But I would think at the time there's probably other people who would ask the same question, so I would just kind of keep them in my mind to come back whenever we decide to do our question and answer episode. And to that end, for whatever reason, it does feel like maybe a pretty okay time to think about our question and answer episode. One question I was asked recently was, and it was polite the way they put it too, it was really nice. Have I always been Pat? That's kind of clever. I mean, my parents both had names that could be attributed to either gender. You know, like Mickey could be a boy or a girl. I could have always been Pat, I suppose. No, I wasn't always Pat is the answer. The longer answer is my mother was. I lost my mother a few years ago tragically, and right after that, as a lot of times is the case, in a tragic death, the partner goes as well. So I lost Mom, and then like a few months later, I lost Dad. And it took me a little while to get over my little family being gone. And I was even lost for a minute or two, I would say. But that paved the way for me. Now, I wouldn't have asked for I wouldn't have asked for a world without him for anything, and there's nothing that I could ever want that would be worth being without him. But about the time that I finally got over being without him, I realized that the last reason that I ever had for staying quiet about my gender, I had left in Texas as a teenager, with the exception of I did not want to stress out my parents. And I had already dealt with it. I'd already decided that they, when it came to that, would have likely, I already know, they would have been the best possible parents in the world, but they still lived in either rural Texas, or then later in life they moved to a little historic town in rural Louisiana, and I never wanted them to have to deal with what had become of their child, with their neighbors, or what. I just didn't want them to have to deal with it. It seemed I felt like in a lot of ways that I was blessed with a really loving family who lived a long time and who absolutely loved their only child, which was me. And I never told them I was trans, and I never gave them a shot to help. That was wrong. But anyway, so when some years later, when I recovered from losing her, it was by her own hand. And when I recovered from losing Dad and the rest of the world that happens to come apart when stuff like that starts to happen, and when I recovered from all of that, I was in a place that I decided to move to in case I had ever recovered. I would be someplace nice. And there I was on my front porch in Oakland, California. I was like, wow, I'm right here right now. And I kind of feel happy again. And it wasn't a couple of days later I came out. And so, which leads to the second question. What is your tattoo? That is a semicolon. It wasn't a poor quality tattoo when done. It has that prison quality to it now because it was done on 55-year-old skin. Apparently is a little harder to tattoo. It was a top-notch job when I had it done. The person had done quite good work and had a bunch of tattoos. But you know, something happens. It's harder to do when you're doing older people. Anyway, the year I came out, that Halloween, I decided that I would get a semicolon tattoo. When people ask about this, my favorite answer is Google it. Not because I'm trying to be a smart ass and go, well, you just use Google. No, I always thought their explanation was eloquent. Otherwise, the explanation is a little heavy, so this is a little heavy warning. But when you see somebody with a semicolon tattoo, usually they're smaller than that. Sometimes they can be like behind the ear or another wrist or on an ankle or something. That is telling you that if you are a victim or a sufferer of suicidal thoughts, or self-harm, that you are looking at an ally, someone who knows, someone who will not judge, and someone for whom you can trust. And that is why you have a semicolon tattoo. When I recovered from losing Mom, I took her name, and then later it seemed like a perfect time to get a tattoo that said, I understand suicide or self-harm. I kind of did understand it in a lot of ways. When she did that, I was really irritated. I thought that unlike me, her life was absolutely perfect. And I also kind of thought that cut off an avenue for me that I always thought that I would have. Because one, I never thought that I would outlive them. And two, they were, you know, they had me when they were kids. So I thought by the time that I would have some world of myself, I would be way, way too old for to even think about coming out as transgender. But so that is why I have a semicolon tattoo. I remember losing Mom, Dad, and then later my marriage, and then later my ex-wife succumbed to cancer. a short time after that. And poor crazy Pat had never given up on her. So her passing was not at all about me, but God, that was not the best time to be going through. Meanwhile, the world was kind of doing pretty okay, but I was kind of having a rough time. And about the time things started recovering from me, our president at the time had been Barack Obama, which that Obamacare made my transition possible. And then 2/3 of the way through my transition, my insurance was made worthless by the next president. So with 3 surgeries on the books, I had to take off to New Orleans with unfinished business, without what was called a facial feminization. And I do believe, I don't think that would have had me winning any Miss America pageants, but I do believe that would have made my 3 years in New Orleans a little less hellish. There are some people who don't get a choice. Their existence is kind of political. And when you look as transgender as I look, there's no place to hide. And there I was in the place where conservatives love to get the drunkest. So yeah, that wasn't my best move. So now here we are. The world is turning a little upside down. And I'm kind of wondering whether or not people know what the hell they're listening to when they listen to me. I am a social activist. I march. I get nose to nose and act ugly with a-holes. I think that people should have shelter. I think that people shouldn't be afraid of their government. I think that people shouldn't worry about their government taking away their health care, but should provide it if needed, and provide food if needed, and provide a place to have shelter and warmth and sleep and bathe if needed, and a doctor and or treatment if needed. That is the minimum, and we're one of the few so-called superpowers who fails miserably at that. So in the world where we're strictly divided, and I just thought maybe I would let you know that I'm possible. My whole life has been made better and possible because of one belief system, and the other seems to be hell-bent on taking it apart. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's kind of what I have on my mind today instead of bonsai. My feeling for the people of Croatia. My generation had to do drills where we would hide under our desk in case of nuclear attack. I bet a couple of generations have passed that didn't know that ridiculousness. And I don't know. It seems kind of weird to not be taking all this very seriously and be talking about bonsai trees with so many atrocities going on in the world. But this is absolutely what helps keep this one sane. But I've never been one to suffer in silence. I'm not going to talk. Well, yeah, I will. I've also been. I don't necessarily play by the rules. If you perform a nasty deal and I fall for it, I wouldn't be one to be so afraid of people knowing that I kept it quiet. No, no, no. You can bet your butt. I am going to be very loud. And right now, I see one bully trying to push around millions, and he's going to hurt some people. And just in case you want to know whether or not to love me or hate me, that's the side I'm on. Anyway, okay, all right, I'll quit. Look at the colors on that bougainvillea. I think that red is really pretty, and I want to see more of that. My little oak seems to be doing good. Tom over at Grow and Clip Bonsai for Seniors suggested that I think he was suggesting that I'll look into some microcelia. I think that's probably a really good idea. I am going to be looking into that. I need to be looking at that for some of the guys that I also treated whenever we had some root issues last year. I need to make sure that after everything that got put out, that we still have our microbes in place and they're all doing. I'm pretty sure our BioGold probably handles that to some extent, but I don't want to assume that. So that is a nice little view of our Ponderosa. The color on this guy looks really good. I'm really happy to see all the little buds in there doing all those little bud-like things. And the huge pine trees here that I'm still trying to identify seem to be dusting everything with pollen. Our sidewalks are yellow. I sure do appreciate you. Frida also appreciates you. And like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will be putting out our next video on Tuesday. Tomorrow we go in and hit it, because that's what we do. Yeah, tomorrow's kind of a big day for me. I gotta go in and do battle. Always outnumbered, always outgunned. I gotta go talk to the higher ups tomorrow. So we've got a scheduled, it's like when I hired on, I said, yeah, I'll do it for this. And they said, yeah, how about if you do it for this and we'll just call it a trial? And I'm like, well, trials work two ways. So, yeah, tomorrow is kind of a big day for Pat's potential career here at her place of employment. I have been busting my butt there. Either they show me some love for that, and we get the figure a little closer to what it was the last time I had this job 3 years ago, before COVID, back before everybody was so dead, or I know where I stand. And sometimes you just got to take that. You got to take, well, you're doing a better job than everybody else, but maybe you're still not appreciated as much. And if that's your answer, you can jump up and down and run in circles and scream and shout, or you can just thank everybody for their time and put your head up and go out in your car and drive away. So I don't see me doing that. Yeah, plus I probably wouldn't shoot myself in the foot that big over a money move. I would at least find a place to land, but I would find a place to land that paid as much just to get out of there at that point. If that happened, I would probably leave for the same money just to take a shot at something better. That's just, I don't know, smart, stupid, that's just my history or MO. Anyway, we are quite warm and everything seems to be. Oh yeah, another little quick look at our smaller bald cypress. You can see the little shoots on it coming out. So yeah, I think that's looking good. I'm really happy with the way the white wisteria is blooming. It has such a nice fragrance whenever if I bring it in at night. The whole house has a really sweet, sweet smell to it. I always liked gardenias too. That's probably that one fragrance that reminds me of being cool things when I was being little, because you can smell them in the spring. But yeah, I did quite a bit of cleanup on the Dawn Redwood. Like I said I was going to do. I cleaned up the pot quite a bit. We've got little buds coming out from top to bottom. Like every branch has at least one or two, if not quite a bit more, little buds on them. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad it's decided to push out some new growth. Keep pushing, keep it going. Let's see it all flush out. I want to see some green color on that thing. And whatever it does this year, it is going to keep all of that. The name of the game this year is let the Dawn Redwood push out everything it possibly can. When I get a shoot over here, wherever it comes, I'll clean up this stub a little better, and then I'll make a decision. I will not want this windmill thing of 3 limbs like that going there. So one of those 2 back ones will probably this one. I don't know that for sure. That one looks thicker than this one. So yeah, that would be kind of a pet thing to do, would be to cut the larger of the 2. Anyway, I'm looking forward to this thing doing a formal upright. It was going to be a cathedral. This branch is so thick because it had a leader that size on it, which came from like right about here and came up that high. About the time I thought, we don't even need to do that. That tree will have a beautiful shape this year or next year if you just let it be a formal or semi-formal upright. And right after that, we had some dieback issues, both from powdery mildew and because I had already been over pruning the tree, so I probably socked some of the energy out. This year, the solution to that is to let it bust out whatever it wants to bust out, let it grow whatever it wants to grow, and feed it and water it, and just let it do all of that stuff. And then let it turn all of those little solar panels into energy, and then take said energy and let it supply the root stock. So that's basically it. We're just going to try to, whatever it gives us in the way of growth this year, we are going to take that and just allow the tree to recover from our sins. I wasn't powdery mildew, but I was some of those other things that weakened the tree, that after I got that, it definitely did shut down. Since it is starting to push out some new growth, and since it's already pretty well broken down, the BioGold we put down a couple of weeks ago. We'll put down another little feeding of those guys. Those are supposed to be dark, but once you open the pack, they change colors in the same way that a chocolate bar changes colors if it's in the display box on a 100-degree day at the grocery store. Anyway, yeah, let's get that. Let's got that. So yeah, our balcony is doing well. Our trees are doing well. Our weekend was really nice. I'm thrilled with both of my oaks. I'm thrilled with the way my pines are looking. It's a lot more enjoyable growing a ponderosa now that I've taken a few of those little lessons on specifically ponderosa development. So now I can see what I'm doing. I kind of know what it is I'm doing, and it just took all the guesswork out of it. You know, it's like guesswork equals, I don't know about you, but for me, guesswork equals paranoia. And it's a lot more fun to do bonsai when you think it's all going to be okay. And you have the information you need to make your choices. Just as simple as that. I propped up the tips a little bit on these guys because they were long enough to finally take that last couple of little twisted wire that I left over for them. So that was one thing I did on the few limbs that were hanging out that could be done that too. So yeah, and as far as the rest of this guy goes, as I was saying earlier on the last video, any branches that come out on my main structure branches will be allowed to just flourish and push out and do whatever it wants to do. All the stuff that tries to come out on the trunk, we will be rubbing or pruning or clipping that back so that it doesn't just pop mark our tree. I hope you are having a awesome Sunday. Frida and I are having ourselves a really awesome Sunday. It's been fun the last couple of days watching all the new growth just bust out on the trees, knowing that that's just going to make the trees we love so much even that much better. And we have all those options, and we're starting to see some of our ideas come to fruition, and it's just, yeah, all that stuff. Do I sound happy? I am. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm feeling a little worried about what's going on in the world, but for the world around me, Pat's got, I've got my world going the way I need it to go. I've got my space. I've got my loving little wiener dog. I am a little concerned. My coworkers are starting to get comfortable enough with my presence that they're letting me know that they were supporters of the last, we'll call it regime. Yeah, I would say fascist regime, but yeah. And, I'm thinking that with things going on the way they are now, maybe they'll finally snap to and see they're playing on the wrong team, or maybe not. It was a million of those moments in the last 4 years that I thought people would show me something rather than their worst side. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going to go down that road much further than this. I hope you're having an absolutely fabulous day. I hope that you are enjoying your time with your family and or your trees and or both. And yeah, I hope your little starters all sprout. And I hope that all your chops back bud. And yeah, like and subscribe if you haven't already. That helps us grow. And we're all about growing and helping things grow. Thank you so much.